Why are fanboys so concerned about games being AAA versus your AA or your independent games? I think it's an interesting topic, and let's talk about it, shall we? Let's jump in. I'm really curious about the obsession that gamers have with a game being AAA versus a AA or an independent game. You see, it's only been with these newer consoles that are connected to the internet, you know, the 360 and so on. I'm not counting the original Xbox and PS2 because that was just the beginning. And multiplayer games over the internet really wasn't that big of a thing at that moment. It was just the start. But ever since the 360 and on, every console, people seemed, with each generation, people seemed to focus more on a game being AAA from a AAA studio versus an independent studio. And I think independent games have come a long way. AA games have also come a long way. And you might not even know what the hell I'm talking about. Like, what are you talking about? AAA versus, like, video games are just video games, right? And that's what I've always thought. That's always the idea that I've held in my head is video games are just video games. It don't matter if it's a AAA game that has a budget of $100 million or if it's a game made by, you know, 20 people in a small little studio apartment or whatnot. As long as the game is good to me, I am willing, more than willing, to spend my money on that video game. And there are times where I'll double dip, maybe sometimes even triple dip on a video game. If it's good, I'll buy it on different platforms just to see how it looks, how it plays, what I prefer, and just to try it out, or maybe even have it on a different platform so I can play it, you know, there. If I have it on, you know, PC already, maybe I want to play it on the PlayStation and get it. You obviously would get it most of the time cheaper. You try and play it there when you're in the mood for console gaming, you know what I mean? As long as the game is good, I believe it doesn't matter whether it's a AAA, AA, or an independent. But I don't understand the obsession that people who play video games as a passion have with AAA games. It's almost like they hold this standard. If a game isn't AAA, they won't even touch it. You got to think, there's a large majority of gamers out there who only play like casualized games, which is Call of Duty or sports game like 2K or Madden. Like, and that's the only games that they play. They play nothing else. That's kind of crazy to me. For me, when I was younger, I never looked into that stuff. You know what I did? When I had the ability to go to the store with my parents and we were able to buy a video game, which was rare, what I would be able to look at is just the front cover of the case. And sometimes, if I was lucky, a store worker might like take it out and let me look at the back and see what type of game it is. That's it. We didn't have the internet when I was younger to be able to look this stuff up and see what type of game Forsaken was, for example. And I say that as an example because I bought that game, or my parents had bought that game for me because it looked really cool. The front cover, if you remember what it looks like, maybe I'll put it up here in the video somewhere. It looked cool to me. When I got it home and played it, I absolutely hated the game. Now, as an adult, I would love to play it again, just to have that nostalgia feel and kind of give it a chance now because I've broadened my horizons with the amount of type of like genres that I play with video games. But back then, it was just like you ate the bullet. You bought that game, you didn't like it, and you had to wait. If you were someone like me, you had to wait until the next game come out, and hopefully you like that. Fortunately for me, the majority of the games that I did end up getting, I liked. They were games that ranged from Banjo-Kazooie, which is one of my all-time favorite franchises forever, to Goemon's Adventure. Goemon's Great Adventure. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. Love that game. But I'd also play games like Donkey Kong 64. And a big genre that I loved as a kid was all the wrestling games. I played WCW Mayhem, WCW Revenge, WWF 2000, WWF No Mercy. They were some of my favorite wrestling games, even to this day. I don't think there's a lot of wrestling games that hold up to that standard for me. But like I said, action adventure games or platformer games back then when I was a kid, I loved. That was my go-to thing. But it seems like people have this obsession now, I think because video games have become so casualized and the audience is so broad now that there's an obsession that if it isn't a game that people know, or a franchise, I should say, that people know, then they just kind of write it off. And it's like, I don't understand. When I was a kid, I would play anything. I would give anything a try. If I could time travel as my present self and speak to my 8-year-old self and be like, hey, you know, you don't get to play a lot of video games, but in the future, you're going to have a plethora of video games at your disposal. There's going to be some things called Game Pass, and there's going to be some things called PlayStation Plus, and they're going to have as many games as too many games that you can't even play all the games that they are offering to you. So it's going to get better, buddy. And then just leave. I would blow my 8-year-old self's mind, pause. And just the amount of people that only play AAA games is crazy to me. I don't get the obsession if a game is AAA, or why people harp on how much a budget was for a video game. And if it's not a certain budget, then it doesn't hold up to their standards. It's really, really weird. When I was a kid, I would give anything to be able to play this amount of games that we have now. But people, it just seems like they take advantage of it, or maybe they don't think of it or look at it that way. But, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys understand what the obsession of AAA games and independents and AA games are? I don't understand the AAA obsession. I really don't. But you let me know what you think down below there in that comment section. You know, do all the things down there. Hit the like button. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps me in more ways than you actually think. And as always, it's been your boy. It's been real, and I'm out. Later. A lion don't concern himself with opinions of the sheep. Pain is temporary, so...